Singapore is a very small country that is never short on ambition. In recent years, it's been working hard to lose its unwelcome, boring tag and to reinvent itself as a popular and aspirational destination. This tiny city-state was built on high finance and its stock has soared. Tourism numbers have been on the rise, and last year Singapore welcomed 14.4 million visitors. That's 9% up on 2011. It's successfully selling an upmarket image of glitz, glamour and luxury. You want it? You've got it, if you've got the cash. But how authentic is this glossy image of Singapore? What about the grit, the secrets, the history, the counterculture of this colourful part of the world? Join me, Rajan Datar, as I fast-track through this city-state to try and find the real Singapore. It's an impressive and ever-changing landscape. New skyscrapers, new resorts and theme parks, new shopping malls. The government seems to have an insatiable appetite to create new reasons for us to go visit. Ever since independence in 1965, Singapore has trusted in its blueprint of creating a low-tax haven for nurturing global capital, investment and growth. And tourism is now integral to that master plan. And there's one part of town that seems to have something for everyone. 5 gardens, including one with more than 1,000 tropical butterflies. Luxury shopping, cutting-edge art, recreation. All in all, an entertainment and leisure complex for the whole family. Little kids and big kids too. It's called Changi Airport, and it prides itself on its status as the winner of more accolades than any other in the world.
There are people who anticipate a pleasant, exciting holiday, and they don't want to start enjoying themselves from the start at the airport itself. There are people who want to shop and dine, and there are people who just want a quiet corner, a corner where they can look at our plants, our fish ponds, our gardens.
In this year alone, some 53 million passengers will have passed through the airport. 30% won't even have left. They're in transit. That's a captive market with time on its hands. Over half of the airport's annual $1.4 billion turnover comes from commercial revenue like this. And soon there'll be even more cash coming in. A new upmarket entertainment complex is currently under construction. It might not be how you'd normally spend a weekend, but many locals come here just for fun. Are you travelling anywhere today?
No,
So what are you doing at the airport?
just to go for the slides.
Just for the slides?
Yes.
What, does she like the slides?
Do you like the slides?
So you come all the way to the airport?
Yes.
And how often do you come here just to do
Almost
this?
every weekend.
Changi has also become the hangout of choice for many local teenagers. Do lots of your friends come here then?
Yes, we do usually come here after school, like Fridays.
Wow, who would have thought an airport is where you come to study and revise? What's wrong with the library?
It's too quiet, then we couldn't voice our questions to each other.
The free Wi-Fi probably helps too.
Many people would say that as they were growing up, their parents brought them here, they grew up here, they came here as students and as adults. And we think that we owe it to Singaporeans to keep this relationship, to make them feel happy and excited about Changi Airport. And we welcome all of them here.
Once you escape from the entertainment and shopping complex that also doubles up as an airport, you can't help but be confronted by the opulence of Singapore. And these days, it seems, Singaporeans are increasingly comfortable about showing off their money. And let's face it, if you're going to park your wealth anywhere, you might as well park it in something extravagant. Let's go!
This is Sam Yeo's fourth Ferrari, and the most exclusive yet. He says he didn't buy a red one so as not to attract attention. Singapore has more luxury sports cars per capita than any other country. And the top-of-the-range models like this one have a sticker price of more than $1 million US.
Besides the power that this car has, it's the feeling of getting into a car that fits like a glove. You feel like you're one with the car, and that's just a really exhilarating feeling.
Symbols of success and glamour in a country that likes to portray itself as dynamic, young and ethnically diverse. It's an image they're very happy for the rest of the world to see.
There's a lot of young entrepreneurs that are coming up, such as me. I have a cosmetics business, and we entrepreneurs are starting to make more money for ourselves and spend and just live our lives and have fun. Also, 5-6 years ago, Singapore brought in the Formula One. So once a year, Singapore is one of the great places to be in, and Singapore F1 is actually the only night race here.
The Grand Prix plus 2 casinos, which after their first year were rivaling the profits of Las Vegas, have all added glitz to Singapore's global image. Before these gaming resorts were built, a debate was held in Parliament and in the country as a whole as to the morality of such a move. Money spoke loudest, and life is certainly less boring now.
How much will this process of building new attractions carry on for?
Well, I think we're quite committed to rejuvenating the scene in Singapore.
The Singapore Tourist Board are certainly happy with the new additions, like this rooftop bar on the new Marina Bay Sands complex.
We don't want to compete on price, so we want to compete on value. And at the end of the day, if you think about it, leisure travel is a luxury good. And when talking about luxury goods, it's not really about how much you pay, but rather you feel you're getting value. And so that's the challenge for us. Are we providing value for the travelers?
Singapore's next goal? Well, to become a sports hub for the region. And to that end, this ambitious new national stadium is set from late 2014 to host international and domestic events, from football to athletics and cricket to live concerts. But in a country with no great history of sport, will people be interested?
You've come to all this trouble to build all this. Are you sure they will come? In other words, are the Singaporeans so sports crazy that they will be filling this stadium for every event?
Yes, I think that's a challenge there. The Singaporeans will come as long as we continue to, or as long as we deliver the programs and the events. In the initial year, they will come just out of curiosity. But the challenge is on the consortium, and we've got a professional team lined up to do this, to bring in the events. I'm talking about bringing the big stadium concert tours, whether it's the U2 equivalent, Bon Jovi equivalent. So I think they will come because we will bring the events and the content that really people will be excited about.
Night falls in Singapore. And it's time for Rachel Kum and her entourage to hit Singapore's most expensive night spot. Minimum price for a table, $3,500 US. This table, a cool $12,000. Alcohol is thrown in as part of the package, of course. Panjir has been estimated to be the highest earning nightclub per square metre in the world.
have to be actually pretty wealthy in order to have a good time in Singapore?
I think you need to have a bit of money to have a good time here. Alcohol in Singapore is relatively expensive. Food, fine dining is actually very expensive compared to fine dining in places like New York or London.
I would disagree with that because I think we offer a wide range of offerings. If you take food, for example, which is a national obsession, you can have a very good meal for $3, or if you want, you can pay $300 for the best, some of the best restaurants in the world. Walking around Kampong Glam and Tiong Bahru, that's free. Of course, if you go into a coffee shop and have a cup of coffee, it may cost you a few dollars. But I think we offer a wide range of options for people.
This is clearly not a lifestyle that everyone can afford.
Hi, can I have a glass of tap water, please?
And nor is it to everyone's tastes. Stay with us, because coming up, we're going to explore life on the other side of the tracks and throw some light on Singapore's unexplored past and present. It's the morning after the night before for Singapore's party crowd. For many others, it's an early start. Now, Singapore is clearly an economic success story, with a luxurious lifestyle enjoyed by many to match.
But I often think that the real heart of the city is to be found beneath that slick, glossy veneer that the authorities quite often want you to see. I'm talking about street life, subculture, romance and rebellion, the real deal. Now, you've often got to root around to find that, and it does help if there's a sus local on hand to take you through. Hey, Adrian.
There is a theory that Singapore's overwhelming priority since independence in 1965 has been to reassure the money markets that nothing can ever upset the apple cart. But the price of this has been a tightly controlled, censored society with limited democracy and little grassroots culture. Comic actor Adrian Pang knows all about upsetting the apple cart. One of his satirical films was briefly banned last year.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Adrian believes people here are willing to rattle the cage of the establishment.
I think certainly yes. I would say unreservedly that the younger generation, whoever they might be, certainly feel that they have a voice and they want that voice to be heard. And unavoidably with social media now, they do feel that that is their platform. And that also is expressed in art forms like street art or visual art or theatre.
Adrian reckons the best illustration of Singapore's creativity and diversity is to be found in food.
This is laksa. And yeah, you can have this for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or supper at any time of the day.
This area, Kampong Glam, a small cluster of streets in the upper part of the city, is perhaps the most obvious example of a cosmopolitan, arty neighbourhood. With its small boutiques, craft shops and trendy cafes, it's inevitably becoming very gentrified.
Doors are closing.
But get off the tried and trusted tourist trail and you'll find authentic culture in the less celebrated parts of the city, where the roots of the modern Singapore were formed. Today, some Singaporeans are taking it upon themselves to show tourists the real Singapore.
Rajan? Yes. Hi, how do you do? Welcome to my neighborhood.
One that's connected to its history and more reflective of the lives of ordinary people.
Well, I've always been interested in space, right? How people...
Yu Chai gives guided tours of Singapore's unique housing development blocks, or HDBs, monuments to the country's rapid development.
Back in the early 60s, it was close to being an emergency situation where people literally lived almost on the streets, right? Or you're literally living in cages in some of these old shop houses. Here we are.
Social housing, initially rented and then leased, dates back nearly 50 years, and today it's home to 85% of the population. These tower blocks have become the backbone of Singaporean society.
Why would you think people should see this?
Well, it is part of our reality. There are still some really local neighborhoods which are really, really nice to see, right? And then there are those neighborhoods which are not too far away from town, which still, have the shop houses and all of that, and some of the traditional trades and things, and that too is yet another reality.
And that of course was in the 60s.
Across town is the Geylang district, where some of the most significant events of Singapore's short history have taken place.
1906. This was also exactly where...
And these two gentlemen are passionate experts on the area.
Within a city area, you probably find there's lots of shopping centres. It's all about making a sale. But in a small town, you find the pace will be slower and people are more likely to ask you, where are you from?
This, for you, is the soul of Singapore.
Absolutely. The small neighbourhoods where the Singaporeans actually live.
The centre, is that the soul of Singapore?
That's where we make money.
We can probably track our history, at least earliest accounts, to maybe 700 years ago. But I think in realistic terms, written history was when the British arrived and then began sort of writing it up.
The fabric of Geylang changed significantly after the Second World War, with cheap rent and overcrowding. Gang culture had emerged from within the different ethnic groups.
And what would they engage in? Because what would gangs do? They would collect protection money from businesses around there. So they would carve up the various turfs, that's one. Two, then of course they began to go sort of into business themselves. Normal businesses, gambling, of course. Illegal, very lucrative, needed protection. People to watch out for the police. Then, of course, prostitution.
Today, Geylang is seedy, edgy, spiritual and authentic all at the same time, with a reputation that spreads far and wide. It's been touted as one of Singapore's top 10 tourist attractions by Time magazine, for instance. You will not find anywhere more eclectic in Singapore. Beautiful temples and highly rated eateries sit side by side with tacky neon-lit bars, love hotels, gambling dens and brothels. Prostitution is not illegal in Singapore, although soliciting is. Brothels are licensed and prostitutes have to be registered. I've seen how rich Singaporeans can party to excess and how licensed gambling is proving to be a cash cow. Yet the state also has some very strong views on what they deem as unacceptable. Drug dealing is punishable with the death penalty. Public caning punishes unsociable behaviour. And then, in what is a secular society, there is the curious status of homosexuality.
Do you welcome gay visitors to Singapore?
We do. We do not discriminate against any type of visitors.
If homosexuality is technically illegal, are they breaking the law by being here? What's the score with that?
I think the government's position on this has been that, the statute has been there and they would like to leave it on the books for the time being, and at the same time it's not being actively enforced.
So the country is perfectly happy for, say, two gay people to share a room in a hotel? That's perfectly acceptable?
No issue at all.
Of course, Singapore's legislation is nowhere near as stringent as some other tourist destinations. There have been recent protests about the suitability of Russia and Qatar to host world sporting events because of their laws on homosexuality. As I approach the end of my trip, swanky clubs and cars, social conflicts, and yes, even civil liberties just for a day take a backseat. Because I'm leaving the big city behind to experience a little tiny bit of Singapore that's lost in time.
Just off the northeast corner of Singapore is this little island, Pulau Ubin. It's like Singapore was 50 years ago. Wild, rural, and very laid back.
Keng Hang runs a family business on the island with his brother and mother, renting out bicycles. She has lived there since childhood and says it's a unique part of Singapore.
Okay, she's saying that this is the last village in Singapore. Personally, I think that coming here, you can learn a lot of things like how our forefathers used to live, learn about their lifestyle, what they do.
Interesting.
Keng Hang's ambition after his mandatory military service is to become a teacher, but he says he'll miss the tranquility of Pulau Ubin.
Personally, I think that in Singapore, it's quite stressful because everybody was like work, work, and work, and the students like study, study, study. But when you come here, Ubin, you get a more relaxed life, a calm mind.
Compared to the hustle and bustle of the main island, this is blissfully serene, and long may it stay that way. So what do I make of Singapore? Well, for a start off, this is one clean, efficient and safe country. And for both tourists and residents alike, that is a real boon.
Singapore has come a long way from when it was disparagingly described by an eminent writer as Disneyland with the death penalty. Nowadays, you get the impression people here yearn for a balance between dizzying wealth and glitz, and heritage, nature and creativity. Yin and yang, if you like.
And as Singapore approaches its 50th year of independence, I hope it will learn to relax a little, metaphorically kick off its shoes and become less of a control freak. Because for many people, the rough and ready can be as enchanting as the super slick and smooth.